is Marky here from Capricorn Crafter, and this is my first video into getting started on how to crochet. So every Tuesday I'm planning on posting a video about how to crochet for left-handed people. And in front of me, besides that fuzz that's flying around, you'll see some basic tools that you need to get started. But realistically, in order to get started, all you really need is a skein of yarn, a crochet hook, scissors, and possibly, most likely, a tapestry needle. And basically, what a tapestry needle is, it's a blunt, it's not sharp, it's a dull end, but, sorry, I just hit the camera. It has a big enough eye for the yarn to go through, okay? On other needles, for like hand sewing and embroidery needles, things like that, this opening here, the eye, it's called the eye of the needle, it's very small and very thin, but this is a tapestry needle and it has a big opening for the yarn to go through. And that's just for like weaving in your yarn tails when you're done. If you're making something that has pieces that need to be sewn together, it helps with that. But that's more in depth as we move on further into the crochet series. So that's the tapestry needle. Now, let's go into crochet hooks. Really, realistically, that's what you need to get started. So I have a few crochet hooks laid out in front of me, and honestly, over the years, I have quite the collection of crochet hooks of many different sizes and styles. But basically, what a crochet hook is, here we go, this one is a boil. It's about 5 to 8 inches long. It can be made from metal, it can be made from plastic, it can be made from bamboo. There's many different materials that the actual crochet hook can be made of, but basically it has a hook at the tip of it. This little flattened part is your thumb rest, and then the rest of it is basically the size or the diameter, and your crochet hooks will say like this is a eye hook and it's a 5.5 milliliter, and that's how they measure the crochet hooks. But that's once you start crocheting and your yarn is on here, that determines the size of your stitches. Now, there are many different sizes of crochet hooks. As you can see, this one is a lot bigger. It has a bamboo handle. This is an L or an 8 millimeter. Usually for US, you're going to go based on like the letters, but it's good to know both. So this is an L, so these stitches will be very big, whereas this one, they would be smaller. And something else about crochet hooks is that, ooh, I hit the camera again, sorry. Some of them have a more cylinder type up by the hook, and some like this have a flattened, and it's just personal preference on what you want to use. I have both kinds because I like to try different things, but it's still the same. It has the hook at the tip. It's just that sometimes this is easier for the yarn to flow through, but pretty much realistically, the size of the hook, this one's teeny tiny, will determine the size of your stitches. Also, in correlation with that is the type of yarn that you use. So crochet hooks are based on, milliliters, 5.5, or not milliliters, oh, whatever, or or an eye hook. Oh my God, stop hitting the camera. And as you can see, there's many different types of handles that crochet hooks can come on. These two back here I had special ordered for left-handed crochet, and I'll link them in the description below, but it's from Would Be Fancy. They hand carve these crochet hooks with the handles, and they're very lightweight, and it's a little bit easier on your hands when you're crocheting for a long period of time. So that's a little bit about crochet hooks, and as we go more in depth over these videos, you'll get more information. Another big thing that you need to crochet is yarn. And this is a brand of yarn that I have been using for many years. The brand is Red Heart, and this particular one is their Super Saver. So this is your like a basic skein of yarn. And the way that yarn is measured is by the thickness of the yarn. So you can have, I think it's a range from like 0 to 7, or I believe that's the range. I'll have a little chart here for you to see, but basically it's the thickness of the yarn. It's not necessarily like the size, like medium, whatever, small. And all yarns have a yarn label, and it gives you a lot of information. So for this particular one, it's Red Heart Super Saver. This is a 7-ounce skein, or 198. I guess that would be grams. I mostly go off the ounces and the yards. This has 364 yards. So this whole skein, I haven't used it yet, is 364 yards. There's a free pattern. Some skeins will have this, others won't. And it tells you how many skeins and the hook size that's needed for this particular scarf, this pattern. This is their website, and most yarn labels will also have the color, and some will have a dye lot. This particular brand, it says right on their label, no dye lots, and what that means is that all of their yarn is made the same. So think of like a paint, like a can of paint, okay? You take it, you have this color picked out, you take it to the paint counter, they add in all the different colors to make up that one color. So that's kind of like what a dye lot is. When certain companies or brands, Red Heart does have some that have dye lots, but basically each skein is made from a batch, and that dye lot number tells you what batch it was made from. So say for example, this one doesn't really have a dye lot. I don't know if I have, let me see quick if I have something that has a dye lot. Give me 1 second. Okay. This also doesn't have a dye lot. Hold on, I'm still looking for something real quick. Does this one? Because I make so many different projects with my yarns, I try to find yarns that don't require a dye lot. But if it's something special that I need like 1 or 2 skeins of, then I might have it like a special. But I normally try to use ones because I make many projects out of it. The colors. So this is another brand of yarn that I'm making another project with, and this also is no dye lots, but this one specifically says lot 2023016261. So this one's no dye lot also, but excuse me, if it were a specific dye lot, this number would be like You want to make sure that if you have to have 2 or 3 skeins of yarn for a certain project and it requires that it's the same color with dye lots, you want to make sure that those numbers match, because if they don't, then even though it might be light country blue, the shade of it might be a little bit off. So you just want to make sure that if you do have a yarn that has dye lots, that those numbers match. Okay, I hope that made sense and wasn't confusing. If you have questions, leave a comment down below and I can try to make another video that might go over that more. So your yarn label tells you the color, and if there's a dye lot, it'll tell you the dye lot number. This particular brand also tells you if you want a center pull to look for the yarn tail at this end. Otherwise, the other end will be like it'll unwind from the outside of the skein. And sometimes too, it's better to pull out the yarn tail at this end because realistically they tuck it in, and as you're working from this end, it might get tangled up together on the inside, so it's good to have both ends kind of pulled out. So this particular brand is a medium 4. It's kind of like right smack dab in the middle of the yarn scale. It tells you what hook it recommends, which this one is a size I for US, 5.5 for international use or whatever, but US would they recommend the size I. Also, it tells you like the size of the square. So if you want to make a swatch, which we'll go over here in a little bit, if you have 12 single crochets and you have 15 rows of 12 single crochets, then it should measure 4 by 4 inches. It also tells you if you're using it for knitting, what knitting needles it recommends, and again, that's the swatch size that you should get. Most of my things that I make are blankets, so I don't really necessarily have anything with swatches or gauges that I need to follow. I figure it's a blanket, it's going to turn out whatever size it's going to turn out. It also has washing instructions, and it says right here to machine wash dry and see reverse label for more information. This is also an acrylic yarn. Just like crochet hooks, yarn can be made out of many different materials. So this is an acrylic yarn, it's a synthetic fiber. I also have a cotton yarn over here. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, hold on one second. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm burped instead, but I feel I feel a sneeze coming on. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Good gracious. This is a cotton yarn, so it is 100% cotton, and this is, the brand is Lily, and it's sugar and cream. So just like crochet hooks where they come as plastic or metal, yarn can come in many different forms. They can be natural fibers or synthetic fibers. Some also some tools that might be helpful. I already went over the tapestry needle, a pair of scissors to cut your yarn, stitch markers. I have 2 little containers. They come in different sizes as well. And I also sometimes use safety pins. So here's a big one and here's a small one, and basically it's like a safety pin. You just close it, loop it on your stitch, close it, and then it's a stitch marker. So if you're counting stitches and you say you need 15 stitches of one color and then whatever, you can loop this around the 15 mark. Or if you want to, in the beginning, we'll use them to mark the beginning and the end of our rows just so we know where our stitches are. Safety pins work well, and yarn scraps work well too. So that might be helpful. Not you don't need that necessarily to start off, but just helpful. And then later on down the road, a tape measure. I have a retractable one, but of course I can't find it when I want to make this video. But a tape measure is helpful. So if you're making a garment or something that's specific to size, this is helpful for measuring out to get to that correct size. All right, so let me clear off my desk here a little bit, and then we're going to go right into starting to crochet. We're going to learn the chain stitch and the single crochet. So let me clear things off here a little bit, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I cleared off my desk space so it's less cluttered. You still see the back of my computer monitor back there, but that's okay. And we're gonna get started here. One thing that I did want to say, these crochet hooks, you can buy them just a standard crochet hook. You can get them at Walmart, Joann Fabrics, wherever. Sometimes they come in a pack, like you can buy them individually. Otherwise, you can buy them also. Some of them are missing, but you can buy them in a pack and it'll give you like a couple of different sizes. Like this pack, I forgot where I got it from, but it has size F, G, H, I, J, and K. So it kind of gets you started with a variety of sizes. But you can buy them individually as well. And since we're going to be using this yarn here, and it recommends, let me turn this around so we can see, it recommends an eye hook. That's what I have here. It's always good to use what the yarn recommends. You can go up a size or down a size. I wouldn't go drastic, because like I said before, the size of your hook is going to determine the sizes of your stitches. And you don't want to use an inky dink hook like this for a yarn like this because it's going to be brutal. And I wouldn't recommend starting off on something this small because the smaller the stitches, the more difficult it can be. So to start off, I would just recommend getting a regular 4 worsted weight yarn or whatever type of yarn you want to use. But this is, like I said, smack dab in the middle. And so that's what we're going to start with. It's not too small, it's not too big. And something to notate about crochet is that it's tension based. You don't want your tension to be too tight to where you can't work into the stitches, and you don't want it to be so loosey-goosey that it doesn't look good. You have big holes in it and whatnot, so you kind of want to find a good tension. And that's kind of been something, my tension has always been, I don't know, off. So like earlier when I mentioned something about gauge and swatches, either I'm either too tight or too loose, and I can't find that happy medium, so that's why most of my projects are blankets. It's just something that's what my tension is. I don't know. So, again, I like to use the yarn from the center pole. You can, and basically how you find it is you just kind of like stick your fingers in here and pull it out. Sometimes you'll get, when you're trying to find the tail, it's really stuck in there, and you can pull yarn out and you'll get yarn barf, because sometimes the tail end will be sticking out, other times it's buried inside, and you kind of have to like pull some of this out, and we call it yarn barf, where like say this was really buried in there, you'd have to like pull this out to get to the tail. But luckily with this skein it wasn't like that. So we are going to start with the chain, and this is something that you're going to want to practice for a while because it's basically this how you start a lot of crochet projects. Some are started in the round, some can be started, but most, like if you're doing something like a hat or a circle, it'll be in the round. But to get started, we're gonna do just a basic square. Sorry, I'm trying not to bump the camera. So, there are different ways to start. And basically, it's going to start with a slip knot. Now, when I was taught at a very young age by my great grandmother, she taught me, um, she always called it the Q method. And what that means is that this is going to be your tail, and the yarn coming out of the skein is your working yarn. So, the Q method that she taught me is that you make a circle. Okay, so you just kind of, trying not to get my hands in there, make a circle, and you bring the tail behind to make like the letter Q. Okay, then you kind of have to hold this together. So so what I do is I wrap it around my fingers, crisscross it a little, and then I kind of bring this so the tail part is on top of the working yarn, and you bring it behind to make a Q. Then you kind of hold it together, and you bring your crochet hook and you grab that yarn that's in the middle and you pull up, and that's your slip knot. And then you can tighten it onto your hook. You can pull on the working tail, the yarn, or the working yarn that's coming out of the skein to make it looser, and you pull them like this to make it tight on the hook, but you don't want it too tight to where you can't move the yarn. Okay, another way that I've seen it done, which is a lot easier, is you wrap the yarn twice on your finger. So again, you take the end, you wrap it twice around your finger, you kind of pinch it with your thumb and your middle finger. You bring the back loop or the back yarn over the front, and then the back over the front. Oh, let me try this, make it a little bit longer. You bring this back part over the front, but you don't want it to fall off your finger. And then this new back one, you're going to bring forward, slip it off your finger, and you have a loop. Okay? So practice those. Now, the way to hold your hook, there's a couple of different ways. You can hold it what they call like the knife. So like if you have a fork and knife and you're cutting, you can hold it like that. Or the pencil, I guess it could be also, like if you're writing a letter, how you hold a pencil, you can do it that way. But how I do it is that I just put my thumb on the rest and my forefinger here, and it's basically just like, and then you rotate your wrist, okay? Or like a rowboat, okay? So I'm gonna do it like this again. Pull up, tighten. Okay, so you have your working yarn over here, and like I said, you want tension. So, and this is the hardest part for me to explain. You can either hold your yarn tail over here while you work, but I tend to hold it with my thumb and my middle finger because you want to have tension on here because you want to hold that as you're working, because if you don't, it's just going to be going crazy, okay? It's just going to be circling around your hook as you're crocheting. So you want to have some tension there, and squeeze it so that you can actually work. Now the way that I hold my yarn is I have my hand like this, okay, and I kind of feed it. I put it in between my pinky and my ring finger, and then over top of my middle and ring finger, over the top of my index finger, and I hold it like that. I've seen it many other ways. I don't know if you can see that. So again, I hold the tail part out of the way. Again, this is your working yarn. It's coming out of this skein of yarn. And I go that, that, and that. And then I pinch this. Because if you don't, like I said, you're going to be all, and you can hold it like this if you like, but I don't know. I've seen people do that. I don't know how they do it, but whatever. Okay, so now, oh, I am so sorry. I am trying. I have like a little bit of space here, so I'm trying. So now, what you're gonna do, like I said, you're gonna have a rowboat. So you're gonna go under, bring your hook over the top, and pull through. So that's your first chain stitch. Again, you're gonna go under and then on top, and you want to make sure that your hook part is down, because if you have it like that, I mean, I guess you could, but it's gonna slip off. So it's best to have your hook, the tip of this, pointing down. And again, you're just gonna rotate your wrist so it comes under and then over and pull through. And I'm doing this through the camera, so it's harder for me to see. So let me zoom in a little bit here, see if that helps. Ooh. Okay, let me get this out of the way so it doesn't focus on that. So you're gonna go over, under, and pull through. So you're always gonna have a loop on your hook. So I have 3 stitches. So again, under and over and pull through. And when we get into more in-depth stitches, this will be like, it's technically called like a yarn over, but we'll go over that in more details later. And we're going to pull it through that loop. Now, I hope you can see this, but this is a chain. And right now, so this is the knot where we started. So we have, see this little V here? I hope you can see it. You have, there's 2 loops here, and it makes like a little V. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, because this one by your hook never counts. Now, something that's nice about crochet is that if you mess up, you can take your hook out, and if you pull this, you can undo your stitches. And look at all those fibers. Just, it's the hard part with a black background, is that you see all the dust and whatnot. Let me try something here. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm trying to get rid of this little, there we go. I don't want that either. Okay, so now we're back to our slip stitch. And you see how when you pull and you tug, you can tighten and loosen. Like I said, you don't want something that's too tight, but you don't want to be too loose. And when you're first starting out, finding that tension will be a little bit difficult, but you'll get there, I promise. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to go under and then over and pull through. So that's 1 stitch. Under and over and pull through. That's 2 stitches. Under and over, that's 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I'm just pulled out some more yarn. If we count our stitches, hopefully you can see this, there's little V's here. And this is the front of your chain, and this is the back of your chain. I don't know if you can see, but there's like little humps that are like little spines. Okay, so this is the front. It has the V's. Let me grab. It has V. Trying to show this so that you can see it. It has little V's here, and those are your stitches. That's what you're going to be working into. So you're going to practice this chain. You can make it as long as you want. You can make a whole chain out of this whole skein of yarn if you want, but that would be quite the chain. But you can practice, maybe do like 100, rip it out, do it again. The only thing is that sometimes when you rip stuff out, again, over and over and over, your yarn will start to split. So just something to keep in mind. So we've done 10. Let's do another 10. I'm going to go under and over and pull through. And as you're making your chains, I tend to just kind of move my thumb and my middle finger that's holding this up as I work, because being down here, then you lose that tension sometimes. So it's nice to have it. So that was 11. This is 12, 13, 14. Let me zoom back out. Oh, I keep doing the wrong button here. Hold on a second. There we go. That way you can see. So that was 13. Sorry. Probably making you seasick. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. And 20. So, practice, practice, practice this chain stitch, because you want something that's even. Now, say your tension was too loose, you would have like big gaping holes. I don't know, I've been doing this for so long. Let me try to make something that's too loose. You see how that's kind of all big and loopy compared to down here. It's more tight. And you don't want something that's too loose, because that's just going to make your project be all flimsy and not very sturdy. And a way that you can adjust your tension is by how loose you're holding the yarn in your hands. You see how that's kind of just all compared to down here? It's more consistent and more even. You don't want something that's too loose. And you don't want it so tight that you can't work into the stitches. Let's see if I can do tight. And again, it's going to take some time to find that tension, because it took me a while. So if you have to spend one whole week just practicing your tension and this chain stitch, do it. These videos are going to be here forever. And then see, now I made some really tight stitches, but now when I go to work back into them, it's gonna be hard to get my hook in there. So you want something that's consistent, and you want to be able to make sure that it's sturdy enough for you to start. And see, I just ripped all that out. So if you ever, and that's what you can do. Practice a chain of 50, rip it out, do it again. Do a chain of 50, rip it out, and do it again. So, we're also going to learn the very first stitch. Sorry, I'm just moving some stuff here. That's my drink. I'm going to put that over here. Because I kind of have like a guideline of what I want to do. So the chain stitch is pretty much one of the basic things that you're going to need to know on how to start crocheting, okay? Let me see here. Okay. So let's make a chain of let's do 20. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now I did a chain of 21 because when you do single crochet or when you do any type of crochet, this first one that you right here, right after your hook, never counts as one. So this loop on your hook doesn't count. So if I want to make something that's 20 stitches in single crochet, I know that I have to chain one more because that first one doesn't count. So we're going to go back down the chain, and this will be a single crochet. So let me zoom in again so that you can see. So this first one where this yarn is coming out of, that doesn't count. The loop on your hook doesn't count, and for single crochet you're going to start in the second chain from the hook. So this, you're going to ignore this first one and you're going to start in this one. So say we're going to make a square of 20 stitches, I chained 21 because I know that this first one doesn't count. Okay, so you can do this one of two ways. You can go into this top loop of this stitch, you know how we have the V, you can go into that top and put your hook in. I tend to use my fingertips. I normally don't have nails this long, but I tried something new. I push my hook through there and I kind of use my fingers to guide it. Now you kind of have two loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and bring this through the first loop. You have two loops. You're going to yarn over and bring it through. Okay? You're going to do that again. Go into that top loop of your V. You're going to yarn over like we did with the chain. Bring up a loop. Yarn over and pull through. So now you have two stitches. Single crochet. And again, you're going to have 1, 2. Okay? Now we're going to go back to that first one and we're going to put in a stitch marker. I would recommend doing this as soon as you make the first stitch, so that way you know when you're just starting out. But you're going to find those top two loops. Oops, sorry. You're going to find those top 2 loops and put your stitch marker in there and then just pinch it closed. Okay, and that's going to hold your spot so that when we come back, we know where the end is. So we have 1, 2. Now another way that you can work back on the chain is if you flip it over and you do the back humps. You know how I said it was a spine? You can do it on the back humps, but since I've already started this way, you don't want, we're gonna continue this way because once you start one way, you don't want to flip it over because then you're gonna be twisted. So we started with just this top loop. So we're gonna go in, just kind of use your fingers to guide it. Remember, come under and then over, pull that yarn through. You have 2 loops. You're going to yarn over and bring it through. Okay, you're going to come here. You're going to yarn over and pull through. Now sometimes this, as you're working back, it can get twisted and whatnot, but it's okay. It can curl up on you. It's okay, just kind of flatten it out. Okay, we're going to go into this next stitch here. Okay, yarn over, pull through. You're going to yarn over and pull through. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me do that again. So we have the first one where the stitch marker is, and it's these 2 loops. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, 5. We're going to go in, rotate that wrist, bring up a loop, yarn over, and pull through. Go in, yarn over. You have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through. Trying to stay in camera for you. I hope it's working. So we're going to see where that V is. Can you see the V? Here's the bottom of it, and here's the top. I'm going to go into that top one. You're going to yarn over, bring up a loop. You have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through. Single crochet again. And I'm trying to go slow so that you can see, because remember, I've been doing this for a long time, so I tend to go fast, and then me going slow, it's kind of hard. Pull through, and I hope that you're seeing this okay. Yarn over, bring up a loop. You have 2 loops, yarn over, pull through. Oops. And when you're first starting on a project and you're working into the chain, it's like the slowest part of the project is when you're first getting started, because once you have something more to work with, it makes it a little bit easier to hold, and you can get faster. But this is always the slowest part. And again, I'm going slow so that hopefully you can see here what I'm doing. And we're just going to do this together. Okay. And again, I am left-handed. This is not a reversed camera angle. I am 100% left-handed. Like I said, some other YouTubers that are out there that teach, all they do is flip the camera angle to make it look like they're crocheting left-handed. But this is straight up left-handed crocheting. It's the real stuff. Okay, so we're almost to the end. We have 2 stitches left. Do you see it? 1, 2. We have 2 left. And then we can go back and count to see. Oh, I'm going to need to get some more yarn, and you just pull. And see how easy that is? You just kind of pull it, and it comes right out. Okay, now this is the last one. Go in to the stitch, over and up. You have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to wrap that yarn around that hook and pull it through. Alright, so there is your first row, and you can stretch it a little bit. There's your first row of single crochet. Now we have our stitch marker in the first one. So let me take this out. I'm going to pull this up so that we have a loop, and we're going to count to make sure that we have 20. So there's the first one, because there's the 2 loops. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, because that's where we left off. Okay? And basically how you find your stitches, again, is at the top here, you have the V. You have what's called the front loop and the back loop. And when you go through both of them, that's your stitches right here. Can you see that? Those top 2 loops is what we're going to go in, okay? So let's count again so you can see them. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And we're going to put a stitch marker in this last, so we know where the end of it is. And when you're first starting out, that's good to know, because you can count your stitches and hopefully you have the right number. So now, what we're going to do for single crochet, I just tighten that back on, I put my stitch marker in, is at the end of the row of a single crochet, we're going to chain 1. So, like how we did the beginning chain, you're just going to chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. Okay, I guess I normally turn it this way. I don't know if it really matters. I just prefer. Sorry, this is kind of difficult to do on camera. No, I go this way because then it's behind. turn your work. Now we know that our first stitch, because this one doesn't count, that chain 1 doesn't count, we're going to go where this stitch marker is. So if it's easier, you can take the stitch marker out and do your stitch and then put it back in. Okay, so again, now we're going to go into these top 2 loops here. Hopefully you can see that and that this is making sense. You're going to go through, stop hitting the camera. You're going to go through those top 2, and again, you're going to do the yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now we made that first stitch, so we know that that's number 1. Okay. And we're going to go in to those top 2 loops. We're going to bring up a loop. Now we have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through. We're going to come into these top 2, yarn over, 2. So that's 3. See, we have 1, 2, and 3. Come in. 4. 5. Go in, top 2 loops. That's 6. And hopefully you can see where I'm going in here. I'm just kind of, this is the front loop, this is the back loop. You just kind of, I don't know if you can see, there's like a little hole here. If I bring this closer, you can probably, there's like a hole, and it's for these top 2 loops. Okay, and you're just gonna kind of shove your hook in there. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and draw through 2. Stick it in, pull up a loop, draw through 2. So this is where, you know how I said when you make your chain, you want to make sure that your tension isn't too tight, because you're constantly reworking into the previous stitches that you made. So if I had made these stitches super tight, I would be really struggling to get my hook into these holes. So you don't want to be too tight, and you don't want to be too loose where it's all gonna be holy and whatnot. So finding that tension is key. Okay, and you're just gonna keep, I'm gonna pull out some more yarn. Okay, I'm gonna go in, and I'm really trying to go slow. I'm not used to going this slow, so if it seems like I'm struggling, it's just because I'm not used to going this slow. But I really want you to be able to see what we're doing here. Okay, and you're just gonna keep going. Okay, and we're almost to the end, and I stopped counting the stitches, but we're gonna go back and count to make sure that we got them all. Now we're at the stitch marker, so we know that's the end. So we're gonna put in a stitch, and again, you can take out the stitch marker if it's easier. sometimes I just kind of stitch right into there, but it's when you're starting out, it's a little bit difficult to see. Oops, now I only got one loop. I want to make sure that I get that other loop onto my hook. And of course, I gotta do it this way. There we go. You got your 2 loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and draw through 2. So now we have 2 rows of single crochet. And we're going to put our stitch marker in the stitch that we just made, and we're going to count to see if we have our 20 stitches. So this first one here that's 1. Let me get my needle here again. So we have the stitch marker. We have, don't hit the camera. Telling that to myself, sorry. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Perfect. Alright, so if you don't have 20, that's okay, because remember, you're just learning. And sometimes what happens is you might put 2 stitches into one spot, you might skip a stitch, and when you're just starting out, that happens quite a bit. Trust me, I know from experience. My very first, I guess, pot holder, like a hot pad for like when you're cooking, so you don't burn your hands. The very first one that I made started off at the bottom was square, and then it kind of became this bell shaped and then went back to kind of a square, and that's because along the way I added stitches, and that'll happen. You might skip stitches, and what happens is that it will change the shape. So let's keep going. Remember, at the end of the row, you're gonna chain 1, okay? And then that very first stitch is gonna be here. It's not gonna be the chain. This is your chain that you just did. It's gonna be over here. So you're gonna put it through, wrap around, bring up a loop, bring it through. And again, you're just rotating your wrist. Now we're gonna stick this stitch marker into that stitch. And hopefully you can see okay with this yarn. I tried. Black is a very hard yarn to work with, so I do not recommend using black yarn when you're starting out. I didn't want something that was too light. I didn't want something that was too dark, so I thought that this would be a good color to start with. So let's do a few more together, and then I just want you to keep practicing. Just practice, practice, practice. Because the more you practice, the better you will get. And nobody is perfect. So I'm not going to say that practice makes perfect, because nobody is perfect. And if you think that you are, well, sorry. You're not. Nobody is perfect. But practice every day, and it's just something more that you've learned. It's more than you knew yesterday. Every day that you practice is more than what you did yesterday, or more than you knew yesterday. There's a saying that one of my another YouTuber that I watch was sewing, and she's like, every minute or every hour that you sew a day or whatever you do that you practice, a day is more than yesterday. So every day. And it doesn't have to be for very long. Sometimes, depending on the type of mood that I'm in, all I want to do all day is sit and either crochet or craft or whatever. And that's okay, but you still need to do life too. So I have a tendency of whatever project I'm working on, I tend to get obsessed over, and that's all I end up doing. And then, the dishes are piling up and the laundry is piling up, and it's like, oh man, I gotta be an adult today. All right. Okay, so I'm at the end. I'm going to do my chain one, and turn, and put your hook in, make your first chain. All right, now I'm going to go a little bit faster. You kind of saw me picking up speed, and I'm gonna see if I can do something here and see if you notice. Oops. Pull out some more yarn. And sometimes it happens when you start to go really fast, you'll make mistakes. But like I said, that's the good thing about crochet is that no matter what happens, you can pull it out and start over. Now, you will not go this fast, but I'm just trying to make a mistake to show you, like, if we add stitches in, what'll happen, okay? Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell you that I was adding stitches in. Shh, you didn't hear that, okay? So we're just going. And you can see when your stitches are pretty, when you're doing your rows and your stitching, it's pretty much, you can tell it's even, okay? Sometimes if there's one or two stitches that you add, it's all right, but at you should be pretty much square at the end here. If you're not, um, then you know something happened. You might find it a row or two later. But what I like to do on bigger projects, I count as I go. So like, say I was working on a project that had many different colors. Before I start that row, I would say, okay, I'm going to count, say this is purple, and then the next one are white, and I'm going to go through that and make sure that and put my stitch markers in at the color changes, so that way I know um, where my color changes are. Otherwise, I'd have to be sitting there crocheting and counting every stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, as I'm going. And sometimes when there's other people, like if my husband's home and I'm crocheting, I don't want to count every stitch as I'm going because he might say something and then I lose count and I got to go back and start. That's why I like to pre-count ahead of time. Okay, so I just made my last stitch here. So, and I recommend when you're starting out too to count at the end of your rows. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this kind of looks a little not right. Like before, it was pretty steady. So let's count our stitches and see what happened. Because it's kind of like bowing now. Can you see that arch there? Something doesn't look right. So let's count our stitches. So this is the beginning. So we have, is it easier when I use this? We have 1, 2, 3. We're supposed to have 20. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oops, that was 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Uh-oh. I have 1, 2, 3 extra stitches that I'm not supposed to have. Well, crud. Now what? Can we find where those 3 extra stitches are? Alright, well, let's take out the stitch marker and we're going to do this row over. So that's the end, so I know where the end is. And I can tell you that I double stitched into a few of the stitches, which I can't really show you right now. But I put in some extra stitches along the way. Alright, so we're going to start there. So, that's number 1. So now we're going to count out loud, okay? Because I already know that I had made a mistake. So there's a 1, because I didn't take it out. That was my first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you wanted to use, like, if you know that you have 20 stitches, half of 20 is 10. If you want to have a stitch marker at the beginning, middle, and end, you can absolutely do that. Okay, because then you should know, okay, at this stitch marker, I should have 10. And when I'm making big blankets, sometimes I'll do it every 10, I'll do it every 20. So that way I know, okay, this should be 20, and then I'll go and count in between those stitch markers to make sure. So that, excuse me, so that was 10. This is 11. Hopefully you can see me here. 11. Oh, I pulled it out. That's okay, that happens. Just start it over. This is, I believe we're at 12. I'm trying to get so you can see where I'm going here. I believe that was 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. And 20. Okay. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Really 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of single crochet. Let's just do one more and then we'll be done with this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to practice until you get this, okay? So chain 1. You're going to start, you're going to go push in, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. Go in. Don't hit the camera and make them seasick. Go in, yarn over and pull through. Go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, okay? All right. You're doing great. Just take your time. Just take your time. It's not a speed race. Everybody goes at their own pace. And just like I said, just practice. This video will always be here for you to watch, okay? I'm not going anywhere. So I'll always be here to help you. If you have questions, or comments, please make sure to leave them down below. And if there's something specific that you want to see, let me know, or a certain stitch. But I'm pretty much, this is going to just be starting from the basics, okay? And the first several videos are just going to be swatches of different stitches. Okay, there you go. You did it. I only did 5 rows, but if you want to make a square, keep going. I did 5 rows. I was going to do a whole square, but I just looked and this video is already 55 minutes long, so I don't want to keep you here all day, but there you go. And see, these are the tops of the stitches. I want to be as in depth as you need me to be, and I want to go slow enough so that you can see. And then this is your tail where you started. Alright, well, thank you for watching. I hope this helps you to get started. Just keep going. And it curls up a little, but that's okay. That happens sometimes. Let me take this so it's not making so much noise. I hope this helped you to get started. I want you to keep practicing, and just keep going back and forth, and count your stitches and make sure that you have your 20, or however big you made. Maybe you're doing 50. I would probably just recommend doing maybe like 20 stitches by 20 rows and just keep practicing with that. Make a square, eyeball it, just eyeball a square. And if you want to keep it, you can. I'll probably finish this into a square, and then in one of the later videos, after we've made a bunch of different stitches and different squares, I'll show you how to seam them together and maybe make like a sampler afghan. Okay? Alright, well, thanks for watching. Please be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know if this has helped you. If you have more questions, please let me know. I'm here to help. Please don't hesitate to ask, because everyone has to start somewhere, and I am here to help you. So, thanks again for watching. If this video was helpful, please click on the like button. Every Tuesday, I'm going to have a Teach Me Tuesday, and it's going to be different stitches. So, keep up the good work, keep practicing, and I'll see you next Tuesday with a new stitch. Bye!